Okay, now we move on to levels of keying is what this chapter is called, and it's important to know what levels of keying are, meaning how to identify what is a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3 system or a level 4 system. In fact, it will prove incredibly important to be able to demonstrate proficiency in the understanding of levels. Whether you are determining levels by looking at a key set symbol, standard key coding system key set symbol, or if you are speaking using plain language, you're going to have a conversation with a client and they'll mention a grandmaster key, or they might use the term submaster, and they're going to have these individual keys. The words of the layman are not necessarily the words that the industry professional uses, and your job is to be able to interpret what the client's saying and get it into an industry accepted framework that everyone can understand. And getting key set symbols into the standard key coding system is going to start with you having that conversation. Being able to identify the level of system that you're dealing with is important so that you can bridge the conversation from the end user or interpreting their requirements into language that either you or your locksmith or your factory can understand. And we're going to talk about level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. And I have mentioned elsewhere in this primer that the Yale cylinder and keying manual that's just in the back of their catalog, their cylinder section of the catalog, basically gets into all of this, and it does so in about a 2-page scenario at the very most, I think, 2 or 3 pages, and it wraps up everything. And as I have also said elsewhere in this primer, that was my introduction to understanding levels, and it's simple and straightforward. This chapter we're going to talk about levels, and we're going to use the standard key coding system key set, industry accepted key set tags, the SKCS we're going to apply, but we're also going to introduce key schematics, which is basically being able to graphically show your key system. And they can be horizontal when they're a really small system, but when they become larger, they become vertical, and I'll show you an example of a vertical system as well. As we have in the past, let's switch to the screen view and let's go over this chapter in detail. Let's get into levels of keying. We just introduced a new term, though we have used it all throughout this document, levels of keying. That new term is indeed level. Lock sets that are keyed alike or keyed differently, more properly termed SKD, are level 1 systems. There's not much to it. You've just got a lock or a locks, and they're keyed alike or they're keyed different. There's no individual key that will tie those together that you would see in a level 2 system. So we're going to just call those level 1 systems. A home is very likely going to be just a level 1 system. A condo building is certainly going to be at least a level 2 system, where you have management that can get into doors. I couldn't say how the condo association or how it would have been built originally, or how business is conducted. You could have an engineering key, you could have a master, you could have a grandmaster. But one way or another, engineering can get into the condo unit to turn off the water if water is leaking to the unit below, kind of scenario. So that's a level 2 system because you have a key above these standard change keys that are governing rights and privileges over those keys. But a level 1 is just simply locks keyed alike or keyed different. You can have as many or as little, as many keyed alike or as many keyed different as the system calls for. They're just individual siloed locks. There's just a list of biddings with no TMK involved. When you add a master key, it becomes a level 2 system, or a 2-level system. It is simply that easy. Adding a grandmaster key gives you a 3-level system, and adding a great grandmaster key gives you a 4-level system. This primer does not intend to be so technical as to discuss levels of keying forensically, though I will summarize by saying, and we're not going to go into it that deeply, not only because, in my opinion, it's not necessary in your general line of work to discuss level 5 or beyond systems, but it's also because I don't have a working knowledge of it, and I can tell you that, and I'll mention it at some point in this primer if I haven't already, people that author books as experts on the subject matter, they rarely see systems beyond a 4-level system. So, these are things that exist almost theoretically. At least it's theoretical in my world. Though I will summarize by saying level 4 systems are composed of one or more level 3 systems. And I'll show you what I mean by that. 3-level systems are composed of one or more 2-level systems. 2-level systems are the most common and are composed of changes under a master key. As Jerome Andrews said, there are a lot more one-story office buildings than there are hospitals. And what Mr. Andrews was meaning there was you're going to do a lot more 2-level systems than you ever will get into a big hospital keying system, even though you'll certainly be involved in it at some point, likely in a career. That's not what you're going to be spending the majority of your locksmithing facing type duties working on. So we will introduce both key schematics and the SKCS symbols at the same time as a means by which to illustrate levels of keying. Try to commit the following terms to memory, or at least know where to find the following. I can tell you that if you are going to progress with credentialization, if that's a term in the industry, you're going to want to demonstrate proficiency on levels of keying. A level 1 key schematic, now here we are, key schematics. It can look like this. I don't really know that there's a key schematic for level 1, but if there was, I would imagine it would look like this. I just have single keyed, I have 5 single keyed groups. And you can have as many or as few locks in each group that are going to be keyed alike. You can have a lock and a deadbolt, SKD1. That tells me that they are operated by the same key, and anything keyed in SKD2 is not going to be operated by that SKD1 change key. I'm not sure if there's a need for a level 1 key schematic, as these key symbols would be shown on the key schedule. But again, if one were to exist, I imagine it would look like that. A level 1 system has only change keys. In level 1 systems, the SKCS gives us the term SKD. This is defined as single keyed. And according to Yale, when locks are required which are not operated by any master keys or other change keys in the system, they are referred to as single keyed and given symbols SKD1, SKD2, etc. Okay. I use the label SKD1, etc. when I am supplying doors, frames, and hardware to a job, let's say a condo building. What follows is an actual job that I am all but finished with. There were 3 phases of the project in terms of the quantity of doors that were shipped, but the lock sets all went at one time to the job site. So this is literally a job that's going on right now. And I'll explain my logic. 177 units where you have 1 lock and 1 deadbolt keyed alike. The contractor specifically does not want a master key. Each unit is keyed differently from each other, and there is no master key. I call it out as follows. Though DHI would instruct you to have the cylinder on a separate line, I have consolidated the lock and cylinder into a single line just for convenience and out of laziness. If this was an AHC exam where I'm detailing a hardware set, I would have my 1806 cylinder. I would specify the lock as less cylinder and then the 1806 on a separate line. So I've got 177 cylindrical lever locks. It's a MO lever, 4607 LN trim, 1806 6-pin para cylinder. I need, here's my keying, SKD1 through SKD177. That clearly means, because I've got 177 locks, they're all keyed differently. I want 2 operating keys per lock. Here is my latch. Here's my strike, my finish, my door thickness. I like to put that as well. Standard fastener package. Not necessary to list that because there's only one option with that. But I like to insert different types of hardware will require you to call out different things. I like to generally call out everything possible and then use that same logic. So an example of what type of hardware do you need to specify fasteners? Well, a hinge, obviously, would be a good way to go. Door closers, you have to specify what, you want the standard hardware fastener package, or are you doing something else? So we've got 177 locks, same logic for the deadbolts. So interpreting this, and I've probably talked about this job previously, I sent this off to the factory, and the order confirmation came back, and it was written very incorrectly. They didn't understand this initially. I got to the key records department, or the keying department at Yale, and the person there, the gal over there, the lady, the expert there, knew exactly what I wanted, and she wrested the order from production and got the paperwork straight, knew exactly what I wanted when I used this exact terminology. So the only way, in my opinion, to interpret those two line items is that I'm going to have a lock and a deadbolt, key to like, with 4 keys total. I'm going to have an SKD1 lock and SKD2 deadbolt. I'm going to have an SKD2 and an SKD2, and I'm calling out 2 operating keys per lock, which really ought to be interpreted only as a total of 4 operating keys per SKD group. And that's ultimately what happened. So we're going to talk more about the use of SKD in a moment. So as I said, in this example, SKD1 becomes a group of 1 lock and 1 deadbolt with a total of 4 cut keys, is what it is. Let's say in the same building, and this is actually a component of this project, there are 20 storage room doors where only a deadbolt is required, and the owner simply wants them to be all keyed alike, with 2 keys provided per deadbolt. I call these out as 20 deadbolts, the part number, the cylinder, are keying. So SKD 178, where does that come from? Well, that'll be the next key in the series. 2 operating keys per lock, latch, strike, finish, door thickness, fastener package, etc. So that should give us, getting crazy here. That should give us, by using SKD 178, 20 deadbolts keyed alike in a group with a total of 40 cut keys. All keyed alike and combinated. To combinate, the term combinate is to physically load the pin tumblers into the cylinder plug according to the required bitting, combination, or actual code of the key. The above items are in actual order sent to Yale by me. The key records department at Yale understood exactly my intent and wrote the order confirmation exactly correct after we went through a round of it not being correct. Now, in my experience in DHI, the term KA, key to like, is used. The problem with KA is that KA is never seen in a keying schematic. You're not going to use the term KA in a proper keying schematic, and that's because KA doesn't exist in the standard. Let's move on. DHI uses the KA convention in keying schedules, and I've seen it. But ALOA teaches the use of the SKCS in keying schedules, and KA or KD do not appear as proper key or lock symbols. The terms KA or KD are valid. The terms KA or KD are valid to use as words in the English language to help describe our needs, but we don't convert that into industry standard framework language. But what I'm saying is they're not correct nomenclature when specifying your needs in industry standard parlance. The use of KA or KD also do not infer anything else about these locks and or keys. I'm just changing that to cylinders. In relation to the level of the system they belong to. Okay, KA, I don't know anything about that. That doesn't, key to like, I understand what those words mean, but it doesn't help me understand where that fits into the greater overall system structure. Are they master keyed? We can't say. The term is too vague. Key to like and key different are better to describe a casual relationship between keys and cylinders, but not to assign a hierarchy within a key system. Unfortunately for us, KA, KD, or SKD are not covered in the ANSI standard. Jerome Andrews, CML, mentions the use of the SKD from order to order with the same factory may cause confusion and additional questions, and the best way to navigate that potential confusion is to ask the factory up front how best to proceed. Now, I'm imagining that Mr. Andrews either had that sort of problem or he can see it being a problem. So this condo billing I did with SKD1 through SKD178, am I going to want to use that same SKD grouping on the next order? You know, will the factory be sure to create a new record? I would imagine they will. It'll be tied to a PO number. But Mr. Andrews brings it up to say, hey, be aware of the fact that you don't unintentionally want to get the same SKD biddings. The use of SKD in lieu of KA or KD is helpful in the sense that should the client call and need another 5 deadbolts, keyed to the same as the 20 deadbolts, all you need to do is order from the factory the 5 additional deadbolts, SKD 178, and reference the original factory order number. In fact, this actually occurred on this job, and had I only ordered them KA, I would had to have gotten the bidding from the client, and I do not personally like to ask clients questions of that nature. It either confuses, aggravates, or educates them. Regardless, asking your client the bidding weakens your stewardship, future gross sales potential over the keying system. That's my opinion, but I speak from actual experience in that regard. When you've got get a key back from a client, they've realized that they can go to anyone to get help with that. And there's a reason that we use SKD rather than KA or KD, and here's why. I put this question to Lloyd Celeber, CML, when I was beginning to write this chapter, and Lloyd was extremely enlightening. Basically, it boils down to this. If you write SKD, keying charges may and will be applied as the factory makes sure the biddings, this is according to Lloyd, as the factory makes sure the biddings are different, along with creating a permanent record. Well, that's the important part. They are ensuring integrity of the system. You're not ordering, 9 cases of locks and they're just all KA2. You have no way to ensure that those biddings are different. In fact, there will be no attempt at those biddings to be absolutely different whatsoever. So that's the first reason you do that. You're ensuring integrity of the installed system. But also, they're going to create a permanent record. And that's crucial because, from my perspective, if it's a keyed cylinder where we are verifying the key works the cylinder, but we're also recording the bidding as in the interest of doing it as a service to the client. We're recording that keying bidding so that if the client calls in the future and says, hey, I need another lock key to my key, you can pull that record up. It's not preferable to say to the client, oh, well, can you come by with your key and I'll do the key work when you're here? Well, sure, that'll probably work, but you don't want to create any obstacle from monetizing that initial call. And that's why we test the keys before the cylinder leaves and we record the bidding. So you're creating a permanent record. Now, we either have the permanent record or the factory has the permanent record. As long as you have access to the permanent record, directly or indirectly, in my opinion, you're good to go. With the group numbers KA1, etc., the factory does not guarantee uniqueness. And the record is on the system, but the factory does not promise to be able to retrieve biddings at any point in the future. And as I've just said, in my shop, with any hardware that requires a key, we test the keys for operation and record the bidding prior to shipping. We believe this is a responsibility to the client that we maintain these key records in a secure fashion, behind a password, data is backed up, completely secured, to understand more fully what was done on a particular project, but also to incorporate what was done on past work to more properly execute future work. You got to maintain records. You need to be able to look back at records so that you know where to go in the future. Meaning, your client does 3 flats and you have a master key and you want to be absolutely sure what biddings you're using. So if you're building three flats all next to each other, that the guy in unit 1 from building 1 can't go into any of the doors in buildings 2 and 3. It's obviously common sense, but I have seen some extremely nonsensical things happen when it comes to key management on behalf of my clients. I'm sure I've mentioned it, but I had one client who owned 24 3 flats in Chicago, and it was Friday and he was late to get to the bar and his tenant just moved in and he didn't have a key to give them for their, so he literally handed them the master key and gave them the master key and would be back in the morning with the permanent keys and would get back the master key. I mean, how perverse that is to know that. You hand me a key, I might just get interested to try it in all of the different storage doors. I don't know which door is mine. Why does it open all these storage doors? I wonder if it works in secure lockup rooms that the landlord has. It is important to take this moment to state you are to be mindful of the bidding of master keys you create, as you do not ever want to really recycle master key biddings. Jerome, just as an aside, Jerome Andrews' book, Fundamentals of Master Keying, has a masterful section on how to maintain a log of your master key biddings, how to use parity in creating different master key biddings, geographically knowing where stuff is laid out. So under the duress of scrutiny, this would be considered negligent, in my opinion, if you're not keeping this information straight. I believe clients expect key records to be maintained and are astonished when you cannot produce bidding information on prior jobs. Literally, customers have said to me, "What do you mean you don't know that? What do you mean I have to come there with my key?" Literally those words, "What do you mean?" Not having this information can make the relationship tenuous. I know that I've lost business because I've asked someone for their keying information and I just never saw them again. They got their locksmithing done elsewhere. Your client may remodel the 17th floor of a 30-story building. Okay? Then you come to find out 18 months later your client is remodeling the 16th floor and wants to use certain biddings from the 17th floor. And what's really occurring here is the tenant was always occupying the 16th and 17th floor, but they did it in 2 different phases. Not having this data on file creates that atmosphere where the client may question may question the level of professionalism their project is being handled with. You as the supplier are obligated to make an attempt to assess and determine the client's current and future needs. This allows you to better create a clearer horizon of your client's ultimate requirements so that you can be as effective as possible to provide products and services that best meet what your client may not yet even have realized is needed. And believe me, they will appreciate you for it as well. They'll think that you can see in the future. Just asking the question, saying, I want to plan as thoroughly as possible. Because once you start a key system, while you have lots of expansion possibilities, and there are many, many advanced locksmithing tricks that can get more legs out of an existing system, you want to give yourself and your client all the advantage. Unfortunately, this is not always possible, as the client may be hesitant or resistant to engage in this conversation outside of context. And two, they may just not know yet. I've asked customers this question, how many of these buildings are going to go up? How much of this are you going to do? How many years? And the impression I think the client got was, I'm trying to angle for more work, and all I'm trying to do is get their key system set up as best as possible initially. Having said this, the ability to call up the bidding of a key while the responsibility to store and maintain this data is no small charge ought also be looked at as a stream of revenue as the client comes to you for the convenience when it comes to adding new locks into an existing keying system. Think of this ability as putting you in a position of power. In the above-mentioned job, I absolutely want to guarantee the groups of locks 1 through 177 have unique biddings, that those biddings are made into a permanent record, and that data can be retrieved in the future. If your client needs keys cut or new lock sets provided to the SKD 128 tag, let's say, and that literally happened on this job. One of the 177 unit entry doors, they were doing a kitchen door for one of them. And I was able to order one lock and one deadbolt to the bidding that the client said, here's the group, the SKD group I'm using on this unit, give me another lock and deadbolt. Because you have access to that data, you can process an order, fulfill the client's needs, and collect payment for these goods and services. Let's face it, that's the point. You never resort to the selection of a random bidding. This is how we make a living. Don't leave these opportunities to be monetized by someone else, because surely someone else is going to if you don't. Though SKD is not exclusively a level 1 term and can be used as a label for a single keyed lock in any level system, when you expressly need a lock operated by one key and one key alone, and by the way, not participating by having any other keys work it, such as a narcotics store in a hospital or perhaps the payroll department in a business setting. It is important to note SKD locks are 100% a participating member of the greater key system, and just because these cylinders are keyed to only one key, the biddings for the SKD cylinders will come from the standard progression pages that are created from the KBA. What I'm saying there is, just because they're not mastered, meaning just because they're not in a sophisticated keying system, those biddings are absolutely every bit of part of your biddings that your key bidding array can produce as any other biddings, regardless of how they're keyed. The standard progression format will be touched on later. Now here's a level 2 schematic. AA, that's just our master. And then, as we already know, numbers precede letters in a level 2 system. I've got 5 change keys and a master key. Pretty simple and straightforward. A level 2 system has change keys and a master key, where level 1 systems had only change keys. This is level 1, this is level 2. Level 2 systems are both the threshold of where you will want to acquire advanced knowledge regarding key systems, but also where you can apply and monetize this advanced knowledge regarding key systems. Again, level 2 systems are the most typical you will encounter, you are likely to encounter, and we will learn shortly how master keying reduces security, especially when done using less than the best techniques available. Master keying also provides not only convenience, but is responsible for providing the client the functionality the application requires. In short, master keying is a necessity. It is a very powerful tool that is best deployed through understanding these concepts and applying them in the best way possible. The schematic we have drawn above is a very simple key system characterized by the first level of change keys and a higher second level, where the master key is drawn and is correctly termed AA and is the top master key, or TMK. Moving forward, when I speak of the TMK, I'm referring to the highest level key in the system, regardless of the levels in the key system. The TMK is that top key. Now, it's not a theoretical master key used in this context, but theoretical master key is indeed used as TMK in a different type of setting. When we talk about methods of progression, we'll talk about how a TMK becomes a theoretical master key. Let's move on. Level 2 systems are where use of the SKCS is mandatory. Recall master keys will have letters in the SKCS, and change keys will have letters and numbers. So if you just see well, you know what? That's not actually true. And what I mean by that is you can have the 35th master key, and that's going to have a letter between, a number between the letters. So A to A, that is a master key. If you go AA through AZ and you skip IO, I forget our mnemonic. Just say no to I and O. You might say no to another letter as well. But when you get to AZ and you run out of masters, it's going to become A1A, A1B, that sort of scenario. In level 2 systems, the numbers will come first, such as 1AA, but it's not AA1. It's number, then letters. This structure, the fact numbers come before letters, tells us we are dealing with a level 2 system. Just like how we know, if your city is like this, that even number houses will always be on the north or west side of a street in Chicago, where I grew up. So 6337 West Newport, we know it's a west address, so we know the street runs east and west, and because it's an odd number, it'll be on the south side of that street, is what it'll be. Newport runs east and west, but the 7 in the 3667 tells us the house is on the south side of the street. A master key in a 2-level system might be AA or BB. These are called key symbols. Since change keys require the addition of numbers, the change keys might be 1AA, the first change under the AA master, or 37BB, the 37th change under the BB master. The key symbol 37BB tells you a couple of things. It's a 2-level system because you have numbers then letters, and that there will be at least 37 changes in the system. A 3-level schematic will look like this. Now, I had said earlier that a 3-level is nothing other than multiple 2-level systems put together. Level 1, level 2, level 3, but look here. That's just a level 2 system. That's just a level 2 system. That's just a level 2 system. So you get the point. A level 3 system has change keys, master keys and a grandmaster key. That grandmaster key is literally called the grandmaster or the TMK, but you'd call it the grandmaster. Where level 2 systems had only change keys and a master key. What you may notice immediately, the numbers go after the letters, and that's the difference. We now know that's a 3-level system. And that it's just multiple two-level systems put together. Numbers after letters indicate you are looking at a key system with at least 3 levels of keying. Master keys still have 2 letters, as these are at the second level of the key schematic. One of the 2 letters of the master key symbol will include a letter from the letter from the from the grandmaster key, such as AC, which is the AC master under the A grandmaster key. Finally, the grandmaster key will have just a single letter. It'll be, as I've drawn here, A. It can be anything as long as it's a single letter. You can have any color you want as long as it's black if you're ordering a Model T from Henry Ford. Finally, the grandmaster is a single letter. A great discussion of the key symbol for a change key in a 3-level system is provided to us by Billy Edwards Jr. from Master Keying by the Numbers, as recreated here. I haven't asked him to dissect this component, but I've done so, I think, in a novel way, and plus I'm crediting him for it, so thank you for the inspiration. Hopefully this helps dissect what this is. Everything in the box, that's your change key. My master key is just these 2 letters, and that's my grandmaster. Flip it around for a level 2 system, 1AA. I would use both of these and not have this. Again, go back and study the level 3 schematic, and you will notice it is nothing more than multiple level 2 systems. And those multiple level 2 systems are simply related under a common grandmaster key. Here's a level 4 schematic. Level 2, level 2, level 2. 2, 2, 2. All of this is a level 3. All of this is a level 3. All of that is a level 4. So multiple level 2s and a level 3 under a level 4. A level 4 system has change keys, master keys, grandmaster keys, and a great grandmaster key. Okay. Where level 3 systems had only change keys, master keys, and a grandmaster. The great grandmaster is literally called GGM. Okay. You may notice a level 4 system is made up of multiple 3-level systems, which are multiple 2-level systems. Okay. By now, you might ask, how can you create combinations, biddings for all of these different levels of keys? That's generally where the head or the mind goes next. How can I combinate this? Well, it's actually startlingly easy when we get into it. We can, and it's easy, at least easy to obtain a grasp and working knowledge of the subject matter, and we will discuss it very soon. The TMK in a 4-level system is indeed called GGM, or Great Grandmaster Key. The SKCS rules now apply as they normally would for the levels in the above key schematic below the TMK, meaning it's a level 3 system when below the TMK. So everything you've learned about the SKCS and how to use key symbols in a level 4 system apply to the level 3 and below. You're just going to have GGM at the very top. The same key schematic was drawn so as to be consistent with the prior key schematics, meaning I drew it horizontally. You really can't see that very well, but it would be better drawn in a vertical format, and I think required, if you're going to write this down on a test, you better draw it in a vertical format if the system is so large it's not convenient to do it vertically, and is indeed how it would be presented in industry texts, and it would look. So this is our level 4. Here's our level 4 drawn vertically. So it's more petite, and then I can run these columns down as far as I need. Easy, simple, and straightforward. I probably should have flipped these lines over to the other side. Regardless. While there are levels of keying beyond a 4-level system, even the industry experts in locksmithing rarely see them, leaving no reason to touch on them here. For further reading on 5 and 6-level systems, I do simply not have a recommendation. I would suggest active participation in ALOA. Take classes, befriend the instructors, and through these connections you will have access to explore systems of this scope, at least as an academic pursuit. Instructors in ALOA, just as in DHI, can become lifelong industry contacts and are always willing to help. Lloyd, Celeber, CML would be able to speak with total command over this very complex locksmithing topic. In fact, Lloyd would engage in speaking about these topics just as effortlessly as he was speaking about his favorite ball player's batting average. I don't know that he's a baseball fan. I imagine he is. His expertise is stunning. That's an understatement. As is everyone that I've encountered, but Lloyd is the focus of this chapter because he helped me with the SKD. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, hopefully we didn't breeze through that too quickly for comfort. Study it, and everything that you're going to do is basically going to fit into that. Your key schematic can change when you have changes directly under the Grandmaster or Great Grandmaster, or if you have a selective key, you'll have other offshoots, or you'll have an SKD. You can have an SKD off to the side. But everything can be put into a schematic, and if you're going to get into having to draw schematics, you're going to need to pursue education outside of DHI. You'll need to participate in ALOA classes where that's going to be absolutely taught. So just as we learn to do submittals for doors, frames, and hardware, there are submittals for the keying component of this as well. And if you're going to govern all of that part, you'll need to learn how to do it. We do have a section on submittals coming up. Let's move on to the next chapter, which is Master Keying Reduces Security. Uh-oh! Let's do it.